Welcome to the Voice of Retail. I'm your host, Michael LeBlanc. This podcast is brought to you in conjunction with Retail Council of Canada. We're delving into the backbone of the retail cannabis industry with Albert Kim, CEO of Vancouver's Greenline POS. With a fresh vantage point starting just prior to legalization, Albert positioned his offering precisely to fill the need of simple-to-use software that not only meant frictionless sales processes in-store, but also seamless upload at the end of the month to each province's regulatory body. Albert also shares insights from his conversations with top clients, coast to coast, on the state of the industry, what needs to happen as a retailer for you to survive and thrive in the post-COVID era.
At the start, we talked to a lot of prospective cannabis retailers, and we kind of got the sense of what they were concerned about. And when it came to the software design, we wanted to make it as accessible as possible, but at the same time, it had to comply with the Health Canada and provincial rules. So we did a lot of document reading. Not the most gripping stuff, but the challenge was, okay, how can you make the software accessible? Because most people do not have cannabis experience. They might not even have had retail experience.
Let's listen in now. Albert, welcome to the Voice of Retail podcast. How are you doing this morning?
Hey, thank you for having me on, Michael.
Well, it's my pleasure. It's afternoon where I am, but I believe you're in Vancouver, so it's a morning. It's peak bragging time, as I used to call it in Vancouver, right? What a wonderful place to be weather-wise at this time of the year, a little dry and a little wet and gloomy out here. And
I grew up here, so I actually take everything here for granted. The air, the mountains, the water.
Yeah. I miss Vancouver. I think in 2019 I was there 9-10 times, so I do miss Vancouver, but look forward to getting back. All right, well, we've kind of jumped we've jumped in. Why don't we start at the beginning? Tell us about yourself and your background, and all about Greenline POS.
Yeah, sure thing. So I'll just talk a little bit about how I got started. I grew up in Vancouver, so I was always kind of curious about the cannabis industry. My co-founder and I, we got our first break making some early software for pre-legalization stores back in 2017. Mm-hmm. And at the time, stores, they were concerned about things like employee theft and data security. But as legalization approached, we kind of understood that retailers would need much bigger and much more sophisticated software to remain compliant. And we also learned that large existing point-of-sale companies, they weren't interested in helping this vertical. And that's something I was really surprised by. And on top of that, American point-of-sale companies were honestly too busy dealing with their own legalized states to provide the level of service that stores would need in this new industry.
And I think for the Americans, it was also the case that some just wouldn't touch it because, of course, it remains federally illegal, but by state is okay. So there is always a debate, right?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, there's still some of that sentiment now. Getting better, but like in America, they're hoping for some form of cannabis legalization. It doesn't seem like it's going to be happening anytime soon. So, we'll have to see.
Well, we're a little off topic, but interesting to see New York State. That's a big one, right? When New York moves, that's a big mover, and we'll see how that sorts out. Well, so that's how Greenline. You've got a background in programming, and so you step back and you said, okay, there's a bunch of things that are going to need to happen in terms of regulatory compliance. You probably, like most of us, didn't exactly know what that would look like. So how did you approach that as you thought about building the product?
At the start, we talked to a lot of prospective cannabis retailers, and we kind of got the sense of what they were concerned about. Mm-hmm. And when it came to the software design, we wanted to make it as accessible as possible, but at the same time, it had to comply with the Health Canada and provincial rules. So we did a lot of document reading. Not the most gripping stuff, but the challenge was, okay, how can you make the software accessible? Because most people do not have cannabis experience. They might not even have had retail experience. And then at the end of the month, when they have to generate the reports and get it submitted to their provinces, like how much work can we reduce so that they can focus on growing their business, increasing their margins, increasing profitability, and all of that.
And that's what you mean by accessible, right? In other words, easy to use and user friendly from just making sure is that the kind of driving force behind some of your consumer design, is that anyone, relatively speaking, a new store manager can sit down and figure out how to use your
100%,
product?
Yeah. We looked at a lot of existing point of sale software, and they're not always meant to be user friendly. And that's fine for a lot of mature industries where there's already a lot of know-how, a lot of knowledge on how to operate these systems. But in any new emerging market, everyone is going to be new. And we really understood that, and we knew that that would be critical to our success if we can help pretty much anyone who's trying to set up a successful cannabis retail business get up and running just using our software.
Now, when we talk about Canada, of course, there's national federal rules, and then there's a myriad, as many rules in the provinces we have provinces. Is your software, did you build it so that no matter where I'm operating as a cannabis retailer, I can use it? Tell me a bit about that.
Yeah, for sure. In Greenline, we actually support just over 450 stores in 7 provinces and territories. So that's our scope of compliance coverage. We started off in BC and Alberta, and then we grew into Saskatchewan, into Ontario, eventually Manitoba, and we actually have these stores in the Northwest Territories and the Yukon at this point.
Now, what are some of the features and benefits? I know that, thanks to the COVID era, there's had to been some rapid change and evolution and demands on products. Suddenly you can't open the doors, but you can, in Ontario, you can do curbside, and then you couldn't, and then you can, and then you could do home delivery, but can't be through. It's a real... if it was a patchwork before, it's a patchwork on steroids or on COVID, I guess. How did you approach that? What are the kind of, take me through some of the features and benefits from that flexibility point of view that your product offers?
Yeah. So like early on, let's say before COVID, the main focus was always just compliance. Like, hey, I have my in-store operations. I want all that data to transfer through when I submit to the province. And after COVID hit, it became really clear that like Greenline couldn't do and build everything that the stores needed. So that's when we really doubled down on what we call the Greenline Marketplace. So that's where we help other software providers connect to our system and provide value to our stores. So at this point, we have dozens of software integrations using our system, and some of the most popular ones, some of your retailers might be familiar with Buddy, Dutchie, Verda. Like some of these guys help provide e-commerce services to our stores, and we really had to work to improve those connections and then make sure that data flowed through to their compliance reports at the end of the day.
Oh, so if I recollect correctly, Dutchie is about in-store, BOPIS, buy online, pick up in store. Is that, have I had to have that right?
They actually do cover full e-commerce as well. It'll vary based on the province. Some provinces only allow for click and collect.
Yep.
And then some provinces, such as in Ontario, they depending on the lockdown rules, they will allow for full e-commerce and this paying online.
So that's an interesting model. So in other words, instead of trying to focus on being good at everything, you're great at one thing, and then bring in partners to build out, as you said, an ecosystem that provides the retailer a single solution. But they're still doing the deal with you, right? They're still installing Greenline. And then is it a bit of plug and play? They can choose partners in your marketplace?
Yeah. We like to call ourselves a cannabis retail infrastructure. So we're laying out the pipes and all the plumbing that you need to operate your store in a compliant manner. And we want to be great at what we do. We're not trying to be just good at a whole bunch of other things. It's actually a common mistake we've seen a lot of other software companies make, right? Just spread themselves too thin, try to do too much. And then at some point, you have to start making trade-offs with your resources, and you can't quite provide what your customers need.
Yeah, that's not an uncommon problem and whether it's cannabis retailer or any retail software, right, is trying to find, it's a real trade-off for retailers between I need best in class that does each of the piece versus one that kind of does or addresses all my needs. So that's an interesting solution that you offer. Is that really where you play amongst your competitive set? Like where's the, so to speak, the white space for your product that you say, listen, if you're going to make some choices, here's why, and here's why we're different, and here's why to choose us versus features in another POS system.
Yeah, for sure. At Greenline, so we're also a really proudly Canadian business. We only do business in Canada, so it's actually really allowed to focus on building features that our customers need without getting distracted by what compliance systems in the various states down south will need. Right, like all of our software is geared towards at the end of the day, you generate your Canadian compliance reports, and we'll make that as seamless as possible. On top of that, we take a lot of pride in the services we provide as well. We provide exceptional service to our customers, free training, free onboarding, 7-day-a-week support. Like our average support response times are within 2.5 minutes. And we feel that this is again something all stores need, especially when you're new, when you're getting started. You have a lot of worries, a lot of concerns, and right, like you have contractors trying to build out your store, you're trying to hire your employees, and really the last thing you need is an unresponsive point of sale platform. Regardless of how good the software is, if you don't have a person picking up the phone at the when you have an urgent problem, it's really going to be an issue for you. So our service is one of the big things that we've focused on and invested heavily in.
Yeah, 2 minutes. That's impressive. And I guess you get a natural hedge, so to speak, by being in Vancouver. So you're open later, so to speak, for those East Coast retailers who are, picking up that volume noon and beyond, right?
Yeah, we initially started with, we were, at this point, a legacy in-office company not that long ago. But at this point, we're a fully remote company, and we actually hire employees all across the country.
Well, let's talk about that for a second, because it's a big topic for a whole bunch of reasons with retailers. So do you envision, two questions. One is, do you envision staying that way post-COVID? And two, how do you maintain culture? Let's talk about that. How do you maintain a culture when everyone's remote and you don't get together like you used to? To talk about your thinking around that as an employer and as an innovative, fast-moving tech company.
I can only talk about my experience. I know a lot of other companies have had different, definitely more challenging experiences. When we went fully remote, we were about 15 people in the company. So we were able to kind of shift and adapt a lot more quickly. But one of the cultural things we've always focused on is putting things in writing. So we have so as a company, we always have weekly all hands meetings. But if someone can't make the meeting, we'll always have the notes available for any employee to read. We'll have all of our goals written down. All of our initiatives will take place either on Slack or in our company like management system Notion. So a lot of that has helped us kind of transition really quickly, and our employees found that they were more productive. They felt more relaxed, but early on, some people felt a little overworked just because you can't get away from the work physically.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it's definitely our emphasis on effective communication translated really well to a remote working environment.
Do you imagine a time where once a quarter you spend some resources, no matter where they are, no matter where your people are, and you say, let's go to Whistler, let's go to Quebec City, let's do something, let's get together. Do you imagine doing something like that in the future?
I think I'd love to do that. I actually haven't thought that far ahead, because it's hard to see where that finish line will be from the pandemic. So yeah, I mean, I would love to. We're just hard to see that just yet.
Yeah, I'm kind of riffing here a little bit because it's top of mind for many retailers as they, for some sign leases, for some decide where they're going to go, and I think the mistake perhaps some of us have made is let's work the same way we used to work together at home. And as you said, it's created this, this stress and this proximity. Anyway, we're a little off topic, but that's cool. I wanted to explore that a little bit. Let's talk about what you're hearing for retailers. So, you're at this fulcrum point, you're at the tip of the spear, so to speak. Not only, I guess, do you have to keep on track of what the changes are from a regulatory perspective, but tell me about when you're talking to your clients and prospective clients, cannabis retailers, what are they asking you for? What are their trends that they're seeing? And give me a sense of what you're hearing in the marketplace.
Yeah, I think if I had to put everything in one word, it would be competition. Stores are concerned about a lot of other stores opening up, especially in their immediate vicinity in places in big cities like Toronto. Yeah, so everything is definitely around competition, and stores are trying to differentiate in different ways. And one of them is just through like how do you promote your products, and within the Health Canada regime, there are pretty restrictive regulations around what you can and can't say, and stores have been exploring ways of like, okay, how can we give good product information to our customers? And so they've been exploring everything from like developing their own apps, from TV, digital signage, in-store kiosks, all the way to paper menus, which it sounds funny when you say it, but it's a really useful way, especially for people who don't want to like necessarily look at a screen and be overwhelmed with too much information.
Well, it's interesting what you say, and I as I said, welcome to competition, because it was the case in the early days of legalization that you would win just because you were there, and if you happen to have supply. Those days have changed so dramatically, right? There's
especially in Ontario, yeah. If you were the first 20, you won.
Right. Yeah. You could not help it. All you needed is a good POS system to keep track of it all. That's what you really needed. So, just touch on that a bit more, like from your perspective, as you think forward. And again, you're taking into consideration potential regulatory changes, you're taking into potential future decides. What kind of features are you thinking of that retailers are asking and saying, we should put that on the product road for now and the future, without giving away the secret sauce about what you're working on? But
yeah, no worries.
Is it mobile? Is it people want to do quick checkout? Kiosks are already present, but maybe people are getting screen fatigued. What do you think?
Yeah, well, one thing for everyone to keep in mind is that the majority of sales still take place in private retail. So the OCS releases quarterly reports just on all of their metrics. And I believe it's as of Q4 2020, almost 90% of sales were from private retail and not the OCS e-commerce. So that's one key thing to keep in mind. People still want to buy things in store. It's still an important experience. When you're limited and when you're prevented from doing so, that'll obviously change. We can't ignore that in-store portion of selling cannabis.
Why do you think that is? I mean, cannabis, of course, and you've got some good heritage, so to speak, in the culture. But what I thought would happen in cannabis retail is that people would go and become accustomed with the new brands and the new products, as there's lots of that new stuff to get used to, and figure out the retailers they like and the brands they like and all that stuff. Buy it once in store, but then switch to kind of a replenishment mode. In other words, I know I want this particular product. I've tried it. I've enjoyed it. And I just want it to show up at my door now on a regular basis. But we're not really seeing that, are we?
Yeah, we're not there yet. I think it's just a function of time. The prevalence of brands, like in the consumer's minds, isn't quite there yet. Definitely nowhere near as much as it might be in the States. And also just due to marketing regulations, it's hard to keep that in the consumer's mind. So early on, there were all sorts of supply issues. So even if you found a brand that you enjoyed, coming to the store, if it's not available, you're not really going to be happy to do that. And you're not going to try to replenish it online over and over. Right now, supply isn't as much of an issue as much as consistency. Even online, it's hard to tell exactly what the THC and CBD content of the exact product, of the exact lot that you're buying will be. So a lot of consumers will still prefer to go into the store. Right? We're really early on this consumer journey. So within the next few years, I do imagine the vocabulary will expand beyond just THC and CBD. Yeah. We will have, brand name recognition. You're talking about brand name recognition. That's interesting. And when you say consistency, what you're hearing is it's not consistency of supply; it's consistency of quality. Mm-hmm. And that's interesting. And when you think about that from your perspective, any ideas or thoughts this year, for example, what you might be doing differently with even with your marketplace to find different resources for the retailers? So there are a lot of ideas that we could develop if there was a great accessible detailed cannabis product information. Unfortunately, the industry just isn't there yet. So even the LPs might not have great high quality data on their own products, their own lots, and all of their THC, CBDs, and terpenes for their products, and the ability for that information to get out not only to retailers but to consumers. It's that chain is quite broken. So there are a lot of software companies that are emerging in this space that are trying to solve that problem. It's something we're actually really excited for, and we're happy to partner with companies trying to solve that problem and deliver additional value to our retailers, which ultimately helps the consumers know what they're buying.
Right on. So you're reserving some bandwidth, some development bandwidth when that happens, because you see that as a big next thing.
It's 100%. It's 100% a big problem that all retailers know about right now. They often have to, talk to the licensed producer sales reps coming into their stores. Send out emails about, hey, what's this product like? What's that product like? So there's big room in this marketplace for that problem to be solved.
Well, it sounds like you're on top of it. You've got both the heritage and it sounds like the nimbleness and the approach is super interesting. So where can people go to get in touch with you or learn more and take the next step in learning more about Greenline?
Yeah, so you can learn more about us at getgreenline.co, and then you can give us a call or book a demo. Our teams will be really happy to help you out.
Well, fantastic. Sounds like you've got it together from a provincial, from a federal, and as much as anybody can with the super changing environments. Listen, I wish you continued success, and thanks for coming on to the Voice of Retail podcast and talking about your insights and your product. And look forward to seeing you soon. And you're going to be on the stage, or on the virtual stage, part of Retail Council of Canada's Retail Cannabis Forum. So I look forward to seeing you there. I'm the MC for that event, so I look forward to seeing you virtually, so to speak, again soon.
Yeah, thank you for having me on.
Thanks for tuning in to today's episode of The Voice of Retail. Be sure and follow the podcast on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you enjoy podcasts so you don't miss out on the latest episodes, industry news, and insights. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider leaving a rating review, as it really helps us grow so that we continue to get amazing guests onto the show. I'm your host, Michael LeBlanc, president of LeBlanc Company Inc. And if you're looking for more content or want to chat, follow me on LinkedIn or visit my website at meleblanc.co. Until next time, stay safe, have a great week.